Hi everybody. So I was supposed to get married a couple of days ago, but I decided to cancel it at the very last minute because of some differences with my fiance regarding my daughter. My fiance, or ex-fiance, Janine, has two daughters from a previous marriage. I have just one, my daughter Heather. Heather's mom, my ex-wife, unfortunately passed away in a tragic accident when she was just 4 months old. Since then, it's just been me and Heather, and she's around 7 now. Obviously, both of us miss her a lot. But I've had a couple of relationships in the past few years. However, none of them have been able to stick. Until I met Janine 2 years ago. She and I had a lot in common, including the fact that we had young daughters and were no longer with our first partner. But in her case, she was divorced. She and her husband had been married for almost 10 years. Her eldest daughter is 8, and their younger one is 6. Apparently, they had been having trouble for quite some time after her younger daughter was conceived. And after a couple of years of trying very hard to keep it together, they decided to part ways mutually. 2 years after her divorce was finalized, she met me and we started dating. So it was all very clean, there was no overlap, but even then, her daughters never seemed to come around to accept the fact that their mom was dating somebody else and they never liked me much. They made it very clear through their behavior, and I never pushed it either because I could see that they prefer their father over me, which was completely natural. And they saw me as competition, which is why they resented me even more, but never brought it up, which was also natural. Anyway, I just decided to give them some time, give them their space to come to their own conclusions, and I did not force my company on them, nor did I go out of my way to get them to like me. And I guess that's what did not sit right with Janine, because that's what the root of the issue was. That she didn't think that I got along with her daughters, and apparently I was too obsessed with Heather to care about anybody else or have space in my life for anyone else. Because on the day of my wedding, we found out that she had called literally every child in the wedding, and it was no longer a child-free thing like she had said it would be. We had already decided to have a small wedding with just a couple of members from our families, a few of our friends, and that's it. I had obviously wanted Heather to be there, but Janine had insisted that it should be a child-free wedding, and we could always have fun with our children later on, but on that day itself, she wanted to be free of any responsibilities. She promised me that we would have them present at the reception, but not during the ceremony itself. I was not exactly happy about it, but I decided to agree to her terms because after all, we were getting married, and I guess I just did not want to start off on the wrong foot. In hindsight though, I should have put my foot down, and I would have found out about her true colors much sooner, because on the morning of the ceremony, we decided to arrive at the venue separately. Since she's quite superstitious and she didn't want us to see each other beforehand. So she had spent the night at her parents' place, and I had stayed in my own home. We had agreed that during the ceremony we would hire our usual sitters to look after the kids, and once it was time for the reception, the sitter would drive them to the venue and drop them off. That was the plan that we had agreed to. But when I reached the venue, I noticed that there were a couple of kids playing outside. I vaguely remember seeing them at some events in her family, probably kids of her cousins, and that was quite confusing because they were a lot younger than our kids, and they were more likely to get fussy or create a racket and get bored at the ceremony, which is exactly why she hadn't wanted any children at the wedding at all, including our own. These were the reasons that she had cited, and the more that I stared at those kids, the more certain I became that I had definitely seen these children before. and they were related to her family. And within a split second, I had made up my mind I needed to talk to her about this because, call it gut instinct or whatever, I knew that there was something fishy about this situation. So I decided to go see her in her section of the venue, which had been partitioned off temporarily to keep everyone out. And her bridesmaids were standing outside when I showed up. They tried to send me back, but I was adamant, and I kept saying I needed to talk to her. So finally, after a couple of minutes, she came out and spoke to me, and she was quite annoyed because I had apparently broken the golden rule of not seeing her before the ceremony. But I couldn't care less about that at this point in time because I had seen the kids outside, and I needed to talk to her about it. At first, I didn't accuse her outright of anything. I just told her what I had seen, and I said that maybe now, since her cousins had brought their kids, it was not too late for us to change our minds and bring our kids as well. I was trying to be polite, but she started getting fidgety and annoyed and told me that it was too late to change our plans and we should just get along with the ceremony and talk about this later. But I stood my ground because by then I had started to feel like there was something that she was not telling me because she was behaving kind of weirdly. I kept insisting that we should call our sitters and have them drop off our kids, and maybe my parents and her parents could watch over them together until we were freed up. She started making up excuses, but right on cue, within a couple of seconds, I started to hear giggling and loud shrieking outside. And I could tell that her kids were outside because I could recognize their voices. For a second, I was quite shocked and she started to distract me, but I decided to go out and check anyway, and there they were. They were giggling, playing with the rest of the children. It was just my daughter who was not there. Of course, my daughter and the children on my side of the family were the only ones who were not welcome at the wedding. And it really took me by shock because, as far as I could remember, everyone had been told that this was a child-free affair. So either her family had disregarded all of that, or she herself didn't bother to tell them about it. Anyway, after I saw her kids outside, I confronted her about it, and she started to tell me that she just couldn't find a sitter for that day because the girl they hire usually was busy. But I didn't buy it because that could explain why her kids were there. But then why were her cousin's kids there too? After a bit of beating about the bush and claiming that she had told her family that this was going to be a child-free wedding earlier, but at the last minute, when she learned that her babysitter wouldn't be able to make it, she decided to make it fair for everyone. But unfortunately, the last-minute announcement was something that only went out to her side of the family. And she forgot to tell me and my side. She's usually very particular about everything, so I wasn't buying this either. It's impossible that she just straight up forgot. And after some more beating about the bush, she finally came clean to me and started accusing me of being too obsessed with my daughter and saying that even her daughters deserve my attention and my affection, that even they deserve to be in the spotlight. And so she had created this whole situation so that Heather wouldn't be present at the wedding. So it would be just us, and I could try to act like a family instead of constantly prioritizing my daughter. At that point, I was shocked, and I knew instantly that I obviously couldn't marry this woman anymore because the situation in its reality was just that she was jealous of the fact that I seemed to love my own daughters more than hers. That was it. That was the only thing that she was upset about. And that's why she had gone to this extent. The extent of lying to me and manipulating the entire situation just so that she could prevent an 8-year-old girl from attending her own father's wedding. And why do all of this? Out of nothing but insecurity and jealousy? Yeah, that is insane. And I was not about to sign up for that. The first woman that I had been with, the love of my life, the one that I lost, she had been an incredibly beautiful person inside and out. And I was not about to get married a second time to somebody like this, who was clearly a bad choice and a walking red flag. So without another word, without bothering to argue or explain myself, I just turned around, I walked out of the venue, went into my car, and I got in and drove straight back home. And once I was there, I excused my babysitter and gave Heather a big hug and promised her I was never going to pick anybody over her ever again. I had already made that mistake once by choosing to let Janine have her way and have a child-free wedding, but never again. I had learned my lesson this one time and I was done. Obviously, she was too young to understand any of that, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, after this, the real trouble started because, of course, once I had left, everyone started calling me and texting me to get me to come back. But I had turned off my phone because I was not interested. And while Heather was napping, I decided to start packing all of Janine's stuff because she was about to move in with me once and for all after the wedding. It was a bit of an unorthodox arrangement, but I'm glad that we had waited for her to move in with me and that she had only been staying over from Thursday through Sunday at my place. The reason for that was that she had her daughters with her Monday through Thursday and they were used to her old home. But she was in the process of selling that, and she had been trying to get them to spend more time with me during our engagement period so we could all get used to this new arrangement. And after the wedding, she planned on moving in with me and the kids would spend their time with their mother here with me. Thankfully, since I didn't go through with the wedding, I didn't have to work that much. And I just packed up everything in a couple of cardboard boxes and I left it outside on the porch so she could collect it and I wouldn't even have to let her in because I was really and truly done. I had no interest in getting married to her anymore. And I never even wanted to see her again because she had betrayed my trust. And I was not comfortable with her anymore. I had tried my best to get her children to like me, but since they were very young and they were still struggling to come to terms with their parents' separation, I decided to give them some time and space to get used to me, and I think it was perfectly fine. It was not like I hated them or anything, and I thought she liked Heather because whenever she was around, they seemed to get along well, but clearly that was all an act, because if she truly liked my daughter, she never would have done what she did. So yeah, I think I did the right thing, but Janine and her side of the family are mighty upset with me because apparently I humiliated them and I broke her heart. I was unreachable for the rest of the day, and Janine did show up a couple of hours later to talk to me, but I just kept the door shut and I did not respond. Eventually, she ended up crying at my doorstep and I still didn't open the door, so she just took the boxes and left. I do feel a little bad about it. I feel horrible about how things ended, but I don't think I had any other option because what she did was really twisted and unnecessary. So she hurt me too. She broke my heart as well. But you don't see me going after them and blaming them for what happened. I've even agreed to pay for the entire wedding because I'm the one who walked out and cancelled everything. And I don't expect her to cough up a single dollar anymore. I'm even writing her a check to show everything that she had invested in the wedding so far. But that's not enough because she and her parents want me to issue a public apology so that the rest of her family and her friends know that this was all my fault. But I'm not willing to do that. And if I do, I'm going to make sure I mention everything that she did as well. But they think that I was the one who was unreasonable and that Janine was just trying to get me to move on from my past because apparently, so I should apologize and leave it at that instead of trying to make her look bad. It really doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm at a loss regarding what to do here. My friends and family have told me to leave it be and block all of them. And I've already done that. But they just keep finding new ways to reach me. And I can't ignore them indefinitely. At one point, I'm definitely going to snap. I know myself well enough for that. And because I'm so emotionally distraught right now, I don't even know what to make of any of this. So I'm very confused, and that's why I'm here. AITA for walking out of my wedding and cancelling it because my fiance had lied to me about wanting a child-free wedding simply because she thought I was obsessed with my daughter. Update 1. Hey everybody, thank you so much for all the help and support. It has been a couple of difficult days for me because I really thought that I could have a life with Janine. I had planned it all out, and I thought that we loved each other enough to make it work. But as is evident, love is not always enough. It's been a week since my update, and Janine has been trying to get in touch with me relentlessly. So have her parents, but for very different reasons. She just wants to get back with me, and she has been promising me that she will make it work. That she'll go to therapy and everything, but I don't think that's enough. Besides, mentally, I have decided that for now, I just want to be single and I don't want to be with anyone. I especially do not want to be with her because I don't know. I just feel uneasy now. I don't think that we will ever be able to get back what we had. Not after what happened. And she's been making fake accounts to talk to me. Reaching out to me through her friends, doing all that. I'm seriously considering changing my phone number on my email address, but then it will be a huge issue for my co-workers and my business colleagues. So for now, I've been putting it off. But I don't know how long I'll be able to do that for. Because like I said, even her parents want to talk to me, but for very different reasons. They, unlike her, just want a public apology to save face in front of their family because I'm guessing that there are a lot of theories and rumors flying about, and they want to put all that to rest by pinning the blame on me. But I'm not ready to apologize because I really don't think I did anything wrong. I definitely didn't do anything worth apologizing for. And if I do apologize, I'm definitely going to bring up exactly why I walked out of the wedding. And they don't want that either, so they can't pick and choose which part of the story to tell him, which to hide, just to make themselves look better. That's not how it works. So anyway, I've been ignoring them so far, and I'll continue to do it until they give up. That's how things are right now. So, not too good. But I'm getting by with a lot of support from my friends and family, who know everything that went down and have been kind enough to keep checking in on me and dropping by. I guess with time, this will heal as well, like everything else. Update 2. So it's been 2 months since the incident at the wedding, and I've paid off everything, and we're done with each other. In the past couple of weeks, she made a few last-ditch attempts to get back with me. She sent me some long messages about how she wouldn't be able to ever be with anyone else again because she truly loves me and she's going to wait for me forever if that's what it takes. She told me that she really loves me and Heather, that she can't imagine a life without both of us now, and whatever she did at the wedding was just out of insecurity and jealousy, and it was a stupid move. But if I really loved her at any point in time, I would have forgiven her for it. So basically she was trying to emotionally manipulate me into getting back with her. But it didn't work on me because I could see through what she was trying to do. And even if she meant everything that she had said, I still wouldn't get back with her because for me, nothing is more important than my daughter. As a parent, I think people will understand what I'm talking about, so it's a hard pass. And her parents pretty much stopped bothering me a couple of days after I posted here, but not before they had let me have a piece of their mind through an email where they basically just cussed me out. They told me that I was a no-good loser and that they were glad that Janine did not end up marrying me because she would never be able to be happy if she had ended up with me, and that I had spared her the horror of having to live a life like mine. A sad and lonely existence with nobody to care for apart from my daughter. They thought that this was going to hurt me, but it really didn't, because I'm proud of the fact that I'm a good father who prioritizes his daughter. I think that's just a normal thing to do. I don't understand why they think it's such a bad thing, and it's such an insult for me. It's really not. I take that in my stride. But anyway, I was just happy that they had stopped bothering me, and in the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to go back to normal. Heather does ask about Janine and her daughter sometimes, but most of the time I'm able to distract her because I don't think that she's ready for the truth yet. When she's older, I guess I'll tell her, but I don't want her to feel guilty or responsible for any of this. So, I don't know. But for now, at least, I'm not telling her anything about the reality here. Anyway, the reason that I'm posting today is because I ran into Janine's ex-husband today at the mall. I was out shopping with Heather, and that's where I saw Janine's kids with a man who seemed to be around my age. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to put two and two together. I didn't want to say anything, and I was about to turn in the other direction when I saw him so we could avoid any sort of awkward confrontation. But it was Heather who piped up when she saw Janine's kids. Strangely enough, even though her kids had never warmed up to me, they seemed to like Heather. And as soon as the kids spotted each other, they ran towards one another, so Janine's ex and I were forced into this awkward meeting. We had never met before. I had only seen him in Janine's old family photos a couple of times, but those were from a while back. And he looked a bit different in real life now, and even he couldn't place me for the first couple of seconds. But when he realized who I was, he was actually pretty warm. It was a very different experience from what I had expected, because from whatever Janine had told me, I had expected him to be very cold and aloof, because she had always said that he was like that. But when I met him, it didn't feel like that at all. And in fact, we ended up chatting after a while because he insisted on getting some coffee together while the kids played, because they had seen each other after a long time and they refused to leave each other's side. I couldn't say no, and after a while I felt like I didn't have a reason to say no either. So anyway, we ended up sitting together while the kids played and having a nice long chat where he told me that he had heard that my wedding with Janine had fallen through. He told me that he was sorry about that and said that he was glad I had changed my mind in the end, because if I wasn't over my ex, then it wouldn't have been a good idea to get married anyway. And from that, I figured out that that's what Janine had probably been telling people, that I had realized I was still in love with my deceased wife, which is why I couldn't get married to her, and I had to walk away. But with him, I don't know why, I just had the urge to tell him the truth, so I did. I told him what had really happened, and I thought that he would be shocked, but he wasn't. He said she's the kind of person, and that this is part of the reason why he had filed for divorce all those years ago. Apparently, when she had conceived her second child, she had expected him to drop everything and be there at her beck and call at all hours. She herself had quit her job, so of course somebody had to keep working in order to keep the household running and to support her, their older daughter and the baby on the way. But instead of trying to understand that, she expected him to cut down on his work hours and be there with her all the time. And when he refused, she started picking fights with him and accused him of not caring about her anymore and only thinking about the baby. She accused him of thinking that she was just a baby producing machine and nothing else, which was weird because he had never treated her that way. Eventually, the fight started getting worse after their daughter was born, and she started behaving weirdly as well. She would go out with him on date nights and flirt with the waiters right in front of him to make him jealous. And when he wouldn't get jealous, she would pout and sulk and tell him that he only cared about the kids but not about her. The last straw was apparently when they attended a party together and she started flirting with one of his friends right in front of him, and the guy was visibly uncomfortable. But she apparently told his friend not to be afraid of him because he didn't care who she flirted with, because he was just a boring dad now. That was it for him. He filed for divorce after that. She begged him to come back several times, but he had already made up his mind. He had even tried to file for full custody. But since he didn't have grounds strong enough for that, he had to settle for shared custody. All of this was news to me. She had never shared any of this with me, and had only said that they were having problems in their marriage and that he was bad at communicating and he had become very selfish. So I figured that it was just basic incompatibilities and chalked it up to that, never bothering to dig deeper because I never had a reason to. However, after this conversation with her ex, I realized that I had made the best decision of my life by choosing not to get married to her. Because I think the same thing would have happened with us as well. She's just a very strange woman. I can't imagine why anybody would get jealous of their kids. It's just such a weird thing to do. Anyway, it was good to meet him and be able to find out the truth about what had really happened, because it just validated my own decision. And I'm happy it's just me and Heather. I don't think any of us would have been happy if I ended up getting married to Janine. Not her, not me, and not Heather. Update 3. So it's been over a year since my last update, and recently I found out that Janine is getting married. I heard about it from her ex-husband, who ended up becoming a good friend. Now that I'm not standing in the way of Janine getting back with her dad, her daughters seem to like me much more. And of course, they get to go on play dates with Heather, who they like a lot. I don't mind it. I think it's cute. At least something good came out of that relationship, because personally speaking, I think it's very weird that within a year and a half of a failed relationship, she's with somebody else. But again, I'm not surprised, because I remember that even when we got engaged, it had only been because she was the one who had kept dropping hints, even though we had been together for a relatively short time. I'm guessing the same thing is happening with this new chap as well, so I have nothing to say about that. I only wish him luck, because from what I've heard, he doesn't have any kids of his own and has never been married before, and is actually a couple of years younger than Janine. Good for her that she was able to move on with her life, and I truly hope, both for her sake and the sake of the man she's getting married to, that this relationship turns out better than her past. It's a good thing I heard about this, because it helped me realize that I don't really feel anything for her anymore. I guess I've moved on too, and I wish her nothing but the best. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.